Coming up, the trial of Derek Chauvin nearly 10 months after the death of George Floyd.
And Buckingham Palace breaks the silence after Meghan and Harry's conversation with Oprah.
All that and more today, Wednesday, March 10th. Good morning, Emerson. I'm Amog Matthews.
And I'm Danielle Finezza. Thank you for waking up with us. So we've had a warm couple of days this past week.
It's been great. Yesterday it was in the 60s and I got to feel the sun on my face and I loved it.
I know, it's so nice to walk outside without a huge winter coat.
We've had a very busy week this week. Yesterday the trial of Derek Chauvin began.
Yeah, and this is coming after George Floyd's death back in May, which we remember started a huge resurgence and a conversation about race across the world.
Yeah. So essentially, yesterday the trial began and potential jurors are being selected by the prosecution, defense, and the court. And what's interesting is that all three of those groups can actually choose what people they want, but they can't discriminate on race. So they can't say, we don't want this person based on race. And according to a former Hennepin County public defender, they're basically looking for people who are not ignorant, especially in such a case with a lot of eyes on it.
Right, it's definitely very important. And this process could take up to 3 weeks. They're looking for a final group of 16 people, but we might be waiting a while for that decision to come out.
Wow, that is a while. And 12 of those jurors will be on the actual jury, and 4 of those people will be alternates. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, and with this case that has so many eyes on it, we'll definitely be keeping up with it here at GME for you. Moving on to more top stories this week. We also have the latest update following Harry and Meghan Markle's big Oprah interview. Buckingham Palace is finally speaking out about the couple. This statement released on behalf of the Queen comes 2 days after their interview. The statement says, quote, "The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. Issues of race were also addressed. The statement says they will be taken seriously and the family is addressing them privately. The Queen says the couple and their son Archie will always remain much loved by members of the family." Our What's Trending correspondent Adelaide Willert has more on the story, including a special interview with an author. We're going to see that later on in the show.
This last Monday, Governor Kim Reynolds signed a law that makes it harder for Iowans to vote early. Republican lawmakers in the state quickly approved these voting changes, saying these new laws were needed to protect against voter fraud. The move was opposed by all Democratic lawmakers in the state. The law reduces the number of days for early voting from 29 to 20. 70% of Democratic voters in Iowa mailed in their early vote. The law also orders that voting sites will now close at 8 p.m. instead of 9, among other restrictions. In Iowa, there is no history of voter fraud and saw no problems in the last presidential election.
The Biden administration is stopping a Trump-era immigration plan. This plan created limits for admitting immigrants that could become dependent on government aid. The Trump administration proposed expanding this beyond cash benefits to aid like federal housing assistance and Medicaid. Anyone requiring those services for over 12 months in a 3-year period could be denied. Lower courts blocked the expansion, but after an appeal by the Trump administration, it was expected to reach the Supreme Court last month. Just yesterday, Biden's administration shared that it will not defend this policy.
On this day in 2020, Governor Charlie Baker declared a state of emergency in Massachusetts as a result of COVID-19.
1 year later, these are the latest updates on the pandemic.
The new CDC guidelines released on Monday are suggesting a path to normal interaction. Americans who have received the full COVID-19 vaccine can gather with fully other vaccinated people indoors without wearing masks or keeping distance. This includes individuals who have waited 2 weeks after receiving the second dose of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines or the single dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. This still means that traveling and gathering in large groups should be avoided, according to the CDC.
Biden will give his first primetime address as president on Thursday regarding the pandemic. He will speak to the nation as we approach the 1-year mark of when the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a pandemic. More than 525,000 Americans have died due to COVID-19, according to Johns Hopkins University. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Monday that the president intends to acknowledge the sacrifices of the American people and highlight their role in ending the pandemic.
Our very own Madison Goldberg has more on what's happening in D.C. and info on the new COVID-19 relief bill.
And the former First Lady that earned a spot in the Women's Hall of Fame. Madison?
Thanks, Amog and Danielle. The House of Representatives is preparing for its final vote on President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan. The administration hopes to sign it into law later this week. This comes after the Senate passed its version of the bill last weekend. The Democrat majority House already passed the legislation in February, but it will be passing through the chamber once more after the Senate made changes. Among the most notable of these changes are narrowing stimulus check eligibility and not raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The bill does still include stimulus checks for up to $1,400 for some Americans and billions of dollars for schools, small businesses, and vaccine distribution. And former First Lady Michelle Obama is to be inducted into the U.S. National Women's Hall of Fame. Her induction comes at the same time as 8 other accomplished women, including former PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi, soccer star Mia Hamm, and NASA mathematician Katherine Johnson, who passed away last year. The group is set to be inducted on October 2nd. The National Women's Hall of Fame said in a statement that, quote, Michelle Obama has emerged as one of the most influential and iconic women of the 21st century. Located in Seneca Falls, New York, the Hall of Fame is the oldest membership organization to honor the achievements of distinguished American women. Tickets to the event go on sale in April, and the event will be live streamed to the public. And President Joe Biden has directed the Education Department to review former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's regulatory legislation on how campuses handle sexual assault allegations. The DeVos legislation spells out more rights for those accused of assault and came under fire from several women's advocacy groups back in 2018. Biden signed an executive order directing the department to, quote, evaluate whether the legislation is consistent with the policies of the Biden administration. The agency will also be reviewing other policies to ensure an environment in which education free of sexual violence is possible. Biden also signed a second executive order for the formation of a White House Gender Policy Council, which will be reviewing the pandemic's impact on women. The measures were announced on International Women's Day. And more than 100,000 immigrants have crossed the U.S.-Mexico border in the past 4 weeks. This marks the highest migration volume in the past 5 years in this time frame. There has been a surge in arrests of migrants at the southern border, and more undocumented minors detained, and the surge in migration causes further urgency for immigration reform from the Biden administration. Migration typically does rise in the spring, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a harsher strain on resources than usual. The Biden administration has allowed for unaccompanied minors to remain in the U.S. if their cases are pending, despite previous instructions to turn away undocumented migrants at the border due to COVID-19. That's all for this week. Back to you, Amog and Danielle.
Thanks, Madison. We're shifting it over to some more local politics right now. Just yesterday, Governor Charlie Baker shared what a post-pandemic Massachusetts may look like in the coming months, the new normal. He basically said how the pandemic has impacted where people work and where people live. He said this in a virtual event where he announced a $3.2 million economic development fund. The money has been awarded to 10 Massachusetts communities as part of a mass development site readiness program. It will help get unused or underused industrial sites back into productive use.
Boston school bus drivers are calling for more help getting vaccinated. Hundreds of drivers rallied yesterday, emphasizing their importance for students returning to school. Drivers also want Boston Public Schools to notify them when an employee tests positive for COVID-19. Currently, over 15,000 Boston pre-K to third grade students have returned to in-person learning. Grades 4 through 8 will be returning next week. Bus drivers and teachers become eligible for the vaccine this Thursday.
A large-scale vaccination site opened in Cape Cod yesterday. After months of lawmakers on the Cape calling for increased access to vaccines, officials finally took action. A site at Cape Cod was added at a community college in Barnstable. About 600 doses of the single-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine were said to be administered. As of right now, more than 700,000 people are fully vaccinated in Massachusetts. That number continues to rise with the opening of more sites across the state, along with access to more single-shot vaccines. All this will help immunize our most vulnerable and hard-to-reach residents in a timely manner.
Dr. Anthony Fauci shared his thoughts on the plan to start in-person learning here in Massachusetts. He says getting elementary students back in classrooms for the spring is a realistic one. Starting Thursday, all educators in the state will be eligible for vaccine appointments. Teachers' unions in the state are even proposing that firefighters administer the vaccine in order to make the process more timely.
Our Boston News reporter Daniela Lobo Rivera spoke with an educator about a program to get teachers vaccinated as soon as possible.
Governor Charlie Baker has announced Massachusetts educators are now able to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. K-12 teachers, childcare workers, and school staff are among those who are qualified.
Believe me, educators want our kids to come back.
For Beth Contos, the president of the American Federation of Teachers in Massachusetts, educators getting their vaccines as soon as possible is her priority.
We want school to get back to as much as normal as possible, and we want to do it safely.
With this goal in mind, Beth is pushing the last mile vaccine delivery program to be passed by the State Department of Health. This program would facilitate rapid vaccination of all school employees.
It's just simple. It would really eliminate all the things that get in the way of getting a vaccine.
Beth says they have had multiple meetings with the State Department of Health, with one coming up on Thursday.
We have it all figured out. We have teachers ready to go. We just need the governor to release some vaccines to us.
If passed, Beth hopes the program can bring back some normalcy to the next school year.
I can't wait for a normal school year for September. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Educators can start signing up for appointments at the different vaccination sites beginning Thursday. From downtown Boston, I'm Daniela Lobo Rivera. Good morning, Emerson.
Thanks so much, Daniela. We'll continue to keep you updated on the vaccination phases here in Massachusetts.
When we return, it's Joey Dubois with the deal that made NFL history.
Stay with us.
All right, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera one. Camera one, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take. Tell them cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a shot of the players
10
coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera
the
2,
team
close upon the
finishes
person
their
shooting.
timeout. Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this game.
Camera 1, get a close up, follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1, close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Hey, we're your roomies, your homies, your new living best.
We live here too.
Thanks.
Action.
Do you have any idea what time it is?
It's time.
7. Oh, 7? It would mean a lot to me if you guys watch.
Welcome back to Good Morning Emerson.
We're sending it over to our very own Joey Dubois. The Cowboys had a very busy week, right, Joey?
Thanks, Danielle and Amog. The Dallas Cowboys lock up their quarterback in a historic deal. Dak Prescott will make up to $160 million over the next 4 years, including a guaranteed $75 million in year one, according to ESPN. The Cowboys drafted Prescott in the 4th round of the 2016 NFL Draft, and he won the starting job that preseason. Prescott suffered a gruesome ankle injury in October, but clearly the Cowboys believe he'll bounce back next season. Vanessa Bryant won a court case that allows her to know the names of the police officers who took photos of her husband Kobe following his lethal helicopter crash last January. Attorneys for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department argued against Bryant, saying releasing the names could possibly encourage hackers to look for the photos. However, the Sheriff's Department confirmed that all photos from the scene have been deleted. But Bryant won the case and said, quote, "These specific deputies need to be held accountable for their actions just like everyone else." The Tokyo Olympics are a go for this summer, but unfortunately without any foreign fans. The Olympics were originally scheduled to be played a year ago, but were pushed back due to the coronavirus pandemic. With the virus still posing a threat, the games will be restricted to only fans within the country. Further details about how many fans will be allowed at each event are expected to be announced in the coming weeks. COVID-19's effect on Japan has been relatively mild, with under 500,000 cases over the past year. The Olympics are slated to get underway on July 26th. The NBA celebrated its All-Stars last weekend, but it looked a little different than usual. Rather than spreading events like the three-pointer dunk contest across the whole weekend, the league packed everything into one night. Indiana Pacers big man Domantas Sabonis won the skills challenge, heavy favorite Stephen Curry took home the crown in the three-point contest, and Portland Trailblazer Anthony Simons won the dunk contest. In the All-Star game, Team LeBron won 170 to 150, and Giannis Antetokounmpo won the MVP, scoring 35 points with a perfect shooting percentage. The second half of the NBA season gets started tonight. Also, a shout out to all the Emerson athletes out there who found out that they will be competing this spring. Congratulations and good luck to them. That's all from me for this week. I'm passing it back to you two at the desk.
Thanks, Joey. Now, Danielle, I don't know about you, but one of the hardest parts of my day is just choosing what to eat sometimes.
Yeah, and it's become even harder for me since moving off campus and not having the dining hall to use.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a new high-tech place that could do it all for you?
It would. Ella Ward went downtown to check out this new high-tech restaurant with the perfect customizable meals for when you're on the go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Boylston Bites. I'm Ella and today we're at Spice in downtown Crossing, where you can get healthy food made by robots. Let's try it out.
When you come into Spice, you'll see that our menu is super diverse and ultra personalized. And so the first thing that we ask you is if you have any dietary preferences or allergens, and based on what you tell us, we're actually going to tailor the perfect menu for you. The other cool thing about our restaurant is we have this thing called an infinite kitchen, which is essentially an automated kitchen that prepares your meal to order, and you get to watch your bowl assemble right in front of your eyes. There's an automated grill that basically grills any vegetables or proteins or cheeses that you order. There's an automated steamer that steams any grains or pastas that you ordered. And then there's a number of different toppings that can go on your bowl as well.
Hey folks, what's up? Today we're at Spice in downtown Crossing, which is a personable, customizable, healthy and fast option for all you Emersonians. Today I got the Umami Q. I'm excited to dive in.
Alrighty, I'm gonna get bite with everything, a little bit of everything in here. Let's go for it. Wow, that's literally so good. Love the little glaze. I got some extra. We also got a little bit of their artisanal soda, spice soda, juniper lime. Oh my gosh. That is also so good. And finally, we got some of this silk chili spice pepitas, which is like a little bit of a pumpkin seed with some spice on it, if I understand that correctly. Again, so good. Everything here has been so good. What a day here at Spice.
Be sure to come out and check out Spice in downtown Crossing. They do pickup and delivery to Emerson. So if you end up coming and getting some spice, be sure to share it with us at #Boylston Bites. We'd love to see it. For Boylston Bites, I'm Ella Ward. Back to you at the desk.
Wow, thanks, Ella. Ella has one of the best jobs here. She just gets to go to these cool places and eat amazing food. Wow.
She does for sure, and Spice looks amazing, so we're all very excited to try it.
Anyway, we're going to send it over to Carly Bronkema. She has more about the interview that's had everyone talking this week.
And the details on some movies to look out for. Carly?
Thanks, you two. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's interview with Oprah reveals some big news about their experiences in the royal family. Here are some of the key takeaways from the conversation. Meghan Markle opened up about her struggle with suicidal thoughts and how the royal institution would not let her get help. This was because they were worried about the reputation and traditions of the royal family. This was part of a larger conversation about how she wasn't protected in or defended from the press by the royal institution. The Duchess also detailed the racism she experienced within the royal family. She said Harry's family members had conversations with him regarding how dark their first child, Archie, would be when he was born. The couple detailed their fear when their security detail was removed after they stepped down from the royal position. In the interview, the couple announced that their second child, who is due this summer, is a girl. This was the first official announcement of the child's gender. The highly anticipated interview between Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and Oprah aired last night at 8 p.m. on CBS. In Hollywood, Billy Eichner will make movie history next year. He will be starring in, producing, and co-writing the film Bros, which is set to open in August of 2022. This is the first gay rom-com from a major studio. Eichner posted on his Twitter, "I honestly can't believe it. Move over, Julia Roberts. There's a new rom-com queen in town." The star gained popularity in 2011 with his show, Billy on the Street. He went on to be credited in American Horror Story, Parks and Rec, and the live-action remake of The Lion King. Judd Apatow will also produce the film. There have been no other announcements about the cast, but people can't wait to see who will play Eichner's love interest. Disney's newest animated film hit the box office and streaming services this weekend. Raya and the Last Dragon was available in 2,045 theaters across the country. Disney Plus subscribers could also access the film for $30. This movie is the first to highlight Southeast Asia and has a mostly Asian American cast. The film grossed $8.6 million in the US, which is almost half of the profit Tom and Jerry, a similarly animated movie, made in the same opening weekend. Many theater brands, including Cinemark, refused to screen the movie because of the small proportion of revenue Disney was offering. That's all from me this week. Back to you, Danielle and Amog.
It's crazy, Danielle, how many people watched Oprah's interview.
Yeah, everyone has been talking about it. There was definitely a lot of interesting stuff in that interview.
Very telling. Our What's Trending correspondent Adelaide Willert breaks down the implications of this interview even further.
And she spoke with Emerson students about their thoughts on the issues.
Over 17.1 million people tuned in to Oprah Winfrey's Sunday night interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on CBS. This was the couple's first interview since stepping back from their royal duties in early 2020. And they have received a huge outpouring of support after the couple have detailed their fraught relationship with the British royal family. In the 2-hour interview, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex opened up about mental health struggles, the gender of their second child, and the racism Meghan endured while in the palace.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Given the conversations about the baby's skin tone and the fact that he would not be given the traditional titles or security from the royal family, the interview raised questions about racism, both in the royal family and in British society as a whole. Author and social theorist Joe R. Fagan discusses the larger issues this interview brings to light.
The Black British commentators, many of them, and they're not many, of course, in Britain, have mostly come out in favor of Markle and in favor of opening up this discussion of racism in Britain isn't just about a few white supremacists or nuts on the fringe. It's about systemic racism.
This tell-all interview is a sharp contrast from the silence normally surrounding the British royal family, but Emerson students that have watched the interview have a resounding cry of support for Meghan and Harry.
Very upsetting. That we're in 2021 and you're worried about how dark a 10% black child would be, and just how wicked you have to be to even think like that.
And again, I just think it goes to show that it's so important to have representation, especially at levels like that. And I think on the individual level, for her not to have that support and representation, and her even struggling with mental health and not getting the support is horrible. But even just being a person of color and being able to, you know, have that platform and they kind of just silenced her is really disturbing to see.
When you're dealing with like a family like that who's just historically racist and is like just awful, like the only way you can do it is get rid of it.
I feel like we should abolish the royal family.
In the aftermath of the interview, the royal family has given no response. However, the public is calling for action. For Good Morning Emerson, I'm Adelaide Willard.
Thanks so much, Adelaide. That interview was crazy.
Don't go anywhere just yet, because when we come back, we have some happy stories to brighten your day. Now it's time for our happy news segment. With all of the serious news in the world, we're taking this opportunity to share some lighthearted stories that moved us this week.
10 years after the nuclear disaster in Fukushima, the entire city remains evacuated, except for 2 men and a ton of animals. Naoto Nutsumura and Sake Kato were both drawn back to the city by their love of animals. They both live alone within the exclusion zone, taking care of their pets and livestock left behind. Kato lives with 41 cats and a stray dog he adopted named Pachi. Natsumura first returned for his own pets, but stayed to take care of his fleet of pigs, cats, dogs, ponies, and ostriches. Matsumura manages a website to fund the feeding of his local animals. That's adorable.
This Boston couple met at Fenway Park 54 years ago, and this week they got their COVID-19 vaccine together at the same ballpark. Donna and Thomas Wall met at Fenway in 1967, and 4 years later, the couple got engaged in the bleachers at the park too. If that weren't enough, the two also celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary at Fenway in 2007. This week's unexpected milestone made the two both happy and relieved. The couple says they have not been able to hug their grandkids since last summer. The Walls say that they plan to visit their grandkids on March 22nd, which is exactly 2 weeks after they received their second dose.
It's awesome that they were to get the vaccine the same place they met.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful story and such a happy coincidence.
Yeah, very happy coincidence. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Emerson. My name is Amog Matthews.
And I'm Danielle Finezza. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.